Welcome to the Ripple of Change podcast, searching for our quadruple aim, where we highlight, celebrate, and extol others creating positive change in healthcare and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Otten. Today's topic is becoming time-rich with physician moms. That warms my heart just listening to that. That is fantastic. I'm here today with Sarah Whitry and our guest, Nicole Perot. And believe it or not, between the three of us, we have 12 children. And if you talk to my wife, possibly 13, because I'm the fifth child in our household. And I have the utmost respect for not only moms, but physicians. And if you combine those two, wow, amazing stuff. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here today, Todd. We're excited to talk with you. And we think this is a really important topic because it relates to so many of us women in medical care and going through medical school, residency, fellowship, and being attendings, and trying also to become a mom, which is an important part of our life for all of us and parents, right, in general. And so I know for myself, it's definitely been a journey, and it's a continued journey of just figuring out how to make it all work. And I think a really big part of it has been figuring out, sustainable ways to protect our own energy and well-being and everything. So I think, Nicole, I would love to know from you, just why do you think boundaries are one of the most important things we can do to protect our own well-being as physician moms?
That's a great question, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me here, both you and Todd. I'm really excited to be here with you too. And yes, I agree. Boundaries are really important. When you don't have boundaries, you find yourself saying yes to everything. You're making decisions that are not aligned with what you want to do. You find yourself overwhelmed because you keep doing more and more with less and less time, less resources. You end up not having any time for yourself. And the next thing you know, you're on a slippery slope to burnout, and then you're burnt out. And it's easy for physician moms because as women, we're socialized to be helpful, do this, help this person out, help everyone out, be helpful at work, be nice, offer to help, volunteer to do this. And so we just keep taking on more and more and more at our own expense. So it's really important that we understand boundaries are important, not just to protect ourselves, but also to protect the ones around us.
Absolutely. And I think they can be, it's an uncomfortable process, especially if you're kind of getting started, because you don't want to disappoint people. And we've been conditioned our whole lives to be the ones that, like you said, are always there to help. We don't want to say no. We want to, advance our own careers, and we want to be a good mom. And so it's like we try to do all of the things, and it can be I think unsustainable for like the expectations that we put on ourselves, right? And what we should be able to do, and we do a lot of comparison. And I think that is where I know that I have found myself running into boundaries myself that I have almost like forced to create because it's not sustainable to go without. Yeah.
I agree. And I'm not a mom. And so I had to learn all that. I can't even imagine the next layer on there. It's like I said, I have a lot of respect for mothers because there are those additional pressures that as a guy, I don't have, and so kudos to both of you. I have, like I said, the utmost respect for you and what you do as parents and moms and what you do for work. See, I do this every time. I say I'm not going to chime in, and then like 10 seconds into the show, I'm interrupting. but that's okay. I'll be quiet again.
You're good. I guess, Nicole, what do you think some of the more unique challenges are for women who are, maybe in training? And I feel like those are the time where you're also considering starting a family if you haven't already. And I know for me, I was very worried about like, would I be able to do it all? How would I make it work? Should I just wait until I was done training? All of those types of things. And I certainly see residents that I work with and train now who are struggling with that same dilemma. And there's not a whole lot of flexibility when it comes to some of the programs and just how they understand what it's like to go through pregnancy, or like a lot of women, I think an unspoken thing, go through infertility. I actually read some studies that there's higher rates of infertility, especially in female surgeons, but also just females in general who are physicians. And that was part of my journey in residency, was going through infertility, adoption, all of those things. So I certainly am like, especially compassionate toward people who are dealing with that. But just like, how do women even start to make those decisions for themselves in terms of like when to consider starting a family and all of the unknowns that go along with that when they don't have a lot of support from, their institutions or their employers?
Sarah, that's a tough one.
I know.
I personally waited until I was an attendant before part of my family, but I do remember 2 of my residents who actually did start their families, and both women came back within 6 weeks. One came back 6 weeks, the other one came back maybe a week or 2 later. And so we know in retrospect that that was completely unacceptable. It was not healthy for mom or baby. But that is unfortunately what they had to do to graduate on time. The one who stayed away 6 weeks, she was quite okay with not graduating on time. But sometimes if you're doing fellowship or you have specific things that you need to get done for after residence, you might be forced to just return to work the very next week or the week after. It's not ideal, and it's one of the things that I find disturbing that we're still talking about this in the year 2024. We know as much as we do about what happens with pregnancy and the mortality associated with it, and how stress affects that, and then women of color, and how there's an added layer of problems that crop up. And yet still we have no real policy, no procedures in place to support them. And if someone was to ask my opinion, I would personally say wait, but that is my personal opinion. And it depends on your support system, it depends on your values, it depends on your age. You may be an older resident, and then you just don't have a choice but to jump in and just say, I'm going to have to bite the bullet and learn to swim upstream really fast. So it's really a hard decision, and you can only make a decision based on how you yourself feel and knowing what you want, and hoping that it will all come together. Invariably, most people that have done it, they said it worked itself out because community showed up, family showed up, friends showed up, they were able to get the support that they needed. But I know for me, I didn't have any family in the area. I didn't have any support. So that was not something that I was willing to chance, because yes, it may have worked out, but knowing that you also want to finish residency and how many things are stacked up upon finishing residency, your job,
absolutely,
able to take your boards on time, all of these things, there's so many things that are all like, it's a hard decision, and I don't think there is necessarily a wrong decision. You just have to make the decision that's right for you.
Right. And I'm hopeful that,
we definitely need to have a concerted push in letting these programs actually be more open and given flexibility to residents who do choose to start their families at that time.
That's exactly what I was thinking, that there has to be more flexibility in these types of situations. And I was actually going to double click on that a little bit and ask a question, to you, Nicole. With those 2 residents in particular, and obviously we're not naming names or institutions or whatever, how well were they supported during that time? Or maybe not so much, and we don't have to get granular with that. Maybe just a 30,000-foot view, like if you will, please. I'd love to hear about that.
It's fine. And I hadn't thought about it in many years, but I'm flashing back, and they had 2 totally different experiences. two totally different experiences. The one who stayed out for the 6 weeks, she was married, she had family in the area, and she was able to say, this is what I want, and ask for accommodations quite respectfully, but assertively. I want to be on less ICU rotations. I want to do less night shifts, and she got it. The other young lady was unfortunately a woman of color who was also immigrant. And so she didn't ask for anything, and she got nothing.
That's
I know. And I mean, like I said, I hadn't thought about it in years now, but now I'm reflecting and I'm just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because the system will just take and take and take, you know, from physicians or clinicians or whatever. Wow. Well, and I would imagine that, you know, your experience as not only a physician, but as moms has led to a lot of the work that you're doing now with speaking and coaching. And I would love maybe for you both to talk about that component of it. Sarah, do you want to go first maybe?
Sure, yeah. So I think you're right in that, like, my lived experience, you know, has definitely led me to learn that I have to advocate for myself, and I kind of have to chart my own path, and I've had to learn the art of knowing my own values and knowing what I prioritize the most. A lot of that is helped by the fact that I do palliative medicine, so I talk to patients about that every single day, and I kind of am naturally able to zoom out and see the bigger picture in life and kind of what I want out of life and what's important to me. And I think it's been a process of figuring out, you know, that for better or worse, like, we're all uniquely in charge of the life that we want to create, in like the small ways and the big ways. And so having to learn to advocate for myself and to not take, if I gotta know, like figuring out how to talk to someone else, how to be more creative, and not just let that be like, nope, it just won't work like that. Has been an ongoing process that I'm still learning, but that's certainly in everything that I've learned and discovered through, you know, being coached by other physicians and then becoming a coach myself. I think that I just find it to be such a widespread issue and concern for so many women physicians, and particularly physician moms. And that's why I want to essentially help people who are a little bit further behind, or just, you know, training or starting out as attendings, and really not just help them realize that they have more options than they think they do, but also like they're the ones that are going to be creating the changes that they want to see in their lives, you know, and sustainability and everything. Like, it sounds sort of harsh, but like you say, like, the system is not going to come swoop in and help you and see, oh my gosh, you're drowning. Like, you're trying to do all these things and be at your kids' activities and, you know, have this life that you want to have and take good care of your patients. How can we help you? Like, that just doesn't really happen right now for the most part. So, I think that, you know, coaching and community have been two of the greatest tools for me, is like talking to others about common struggles and not just staying in those struggles, but sort of like, how do we get creative, and how do we really help you to, you know, chart your own path and your own course? Because I truly believe, you know, every single physician is able to do that for themselves, but it's very, very challenging when you're kind of going against the status quo, and doing that for yourself. So that's why I love this work, and I think it's very meaningful to do and to have these conversations. I think it, you know, one by one, like, we see other people's examples, and then like some of the changes I've made in my life, and people are like, wow, how'd you do that? And then I'm like, oh, let's talk, you know, and then we chat, and then just kind of that effect that then other people see, and they see that it's possible for themselves, like in their own unique circumstances, which I think is really powerful.
Well, and before you answer, Nicole, Sarah, you can just see, for those of you listening, you obviously can't see Sarah, but she's lighting up as she's talking about this. It's fantastic. I love this. Nicole, I'd love to hear from you. Same thought, train, if you will, you know, sort of some of the work that you're working on now, and how your story has led into that.
Right. And I echo a lot of what Sarah said because before I became a mom, it was easy to say, okay, I'm going to chair this other committee. Okay, I'm going to take on this project. But then when you add the responsibility of taking care of little human beings on top of that, that was when I discovered, oh my gosh, there is only so much of me to go around. And then on top of that, one of my twins actually has special needs. So that required a lot of flexibility. And working as a hospitalist with the rigid system, rigid schedule, that was where the rubber met the road for me because you can't go to appointments, you can't do things when you're on. Everything has to wait for when you're off. But then, of course, nothing will line up for when you're off because that is just how the
Mhm.
law of physics work.
Yeah.
And so that became very frustrating because I couldn't do the things I needed to do to advocate for him. And so as a result, I then started to find my voice because I realized, okay, it's not about me, it's about him. I need to figure this out. And this is not going to work. And so you learn to advocate. You learn, that was where I learned about boundaries. And thankfully, I found the community as well. And in that community, I realized, okay, I'm not alone in the struggle. I just need to keep leaning on my community. And that was very helpful. And then when I found coaching, that was another layer of support that was extremely beneficial. And that was what led me to become a coach as well, to help other physician women and moms who are struggling because there are so many things that we're doing that would stretch us. And then we forget that we need to take care of ourselves. So we're doing things at work, we're doing things at home, we're trying to be good parents, we're trying to be good daughters, we're trying to be good sisters, we're trying to be good community members. And then we forget that we need to take care of ourselves in the process. So just relearning what my values were at that point in time, because of course, over time they changed. And so becoming familiar again with what was important, what I needed, what would actually fill me up, as opposed to just trying to keep going and going. And it meant just
Mhm.
having courage and being brave because not every decision that you make will be something that the rest of medicine is going to do. So being brave enough to say, this is not working for me. I am going to have to go left, left off stage
Mhm.
because this no longer works for me. And
Right.
being comfortable with the decision, even though you're being told, are you sure this is not a good move? You're ruining your career, which we hear even up to today.
Mhm.
I had
Mhm.
a client who I spoke with last week who said her program chair literally yelled at her, "You're ruining your career. What are you doing?"
Mm.
But this was
Wow.
someone who had to take 3 months of FMLA because she was so stressed out. Now, how does
Mhm.
the two of them don't jive? They don't.
I
It doesn't make
am.
any
I
sense.
am. Oh my gosh.
So
That
you have
just
to do
reminded me.
right. So you just have to do what you need to do. Be clear in your values, where you want to go, and not be afraid. You have to just have that courage. But you need the community as well. You need the support. And then coaching
Mhm.
definitely is that added tool to give you the clarity you need, where you're going, keep you accountable, give you the steps, and go from there. You know?
Mhm.
There is for the listeners, if you're not getting all this because it's fantastic, I'm going to recap just what I consider to be some of the highlights that I'm hearing from these wonderful colleagues: self-advocacy, support, coaching, setting boundaries, community. Those things are so important, and depending on where and when you trained, we're not taught all those things. We're taught to be autonomous and self-reliant and just keep going, and those are opposed, many of those things. And frankly, I'm much more in the camp of what I'm hearing from the two of you than what I was taught when I went through school. So if you're struggling, please reach out. There's lots
Mhm.
of resources out there. This might be a good opportunity for a Ripple Challenge question, and I believe, I might be wrong, that Sarah might have one prepared. So I will defer to her. Again, no rules to this. We're going to give the challenge and see where it goes.
Sure. It's not that challenging, but it's fun, I think. Um,
Mhm.
so my question is, if you could design an ideal summer weekend morning, what would you do?
I like that. And that would be somewhere where in nature, there are trees around, somewhere close to water, because I love hearing the sound of the waves. Being able to sleep in, not waking up
Hmm.
because of the alarm clock, just being able to sleep in and wake up whenever, and then getting a nice, good cup of coffee. That would be,
Hmm.
that is it. That is it.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
And I'll chime in here, and then
absolutely.
I definitely want to hear from you too, Sarah. I'm not a sleeping in kind of guy, so I'm probably up at the crack of dawn. But a great sunrise would be amazing. A hot latte, maybe reading a book or something along those lines, and then maybe going golfing with the kids. I think that would be an ideal morning for me. How about you, Sarah? What would you say?
Yeah, a lot of the same elements. I would also like to sleep in, Nicole. I have a toddler, so like that's never an option right now. But I would love to sleep in. I would love to have, I love slow mornings. So even sometimes I'll just wake up right ahead of people because I like to have that time to read a few pages of a book, journal a little bit. I love some morning yoga outside, even like 10 minutes is one of my favorite things to do. So on an ideal morning, I would definitely do a good amount of yoga by myself and out in nature. And then, yeah, I would like to do something outside with the family. So whether it's just like throwing a football around, going on a hike, something like that, just low key, no time pressure. That sounds perfect to me.
Nice.
This is fantastic. This is such a, and for those watching, you're seeing the smiles like pretty much this whole show, which is I love it. That's what it's about. This is about positivity, about friendship, about love, about talking about the positive things in healthcare and not just dwelling on all the negative things that are out there. To me, these are the moments that can facilitate change, not just for the three of us here, but for those listening and or watching and or take a little nugget from this show back to their workplace and make a difference. But I'm always cognizant of the time, and I feel like we could talk forever on these things. I usually try and go about 30 minutes, but I always want to offer everybody an opportunity to impart one more thought, whatever you prefer, but also more importantly, perhaps, is how can everybody get a hold of you? This is the opportunity for those plugs, the websites, the books, whatever the case may be. Nicole, I'd love to hear from you. One imparting thought, and also how can people find you and reach out, etc.
One of my favorite quotes, it's essentially it says, every morning you get a chance to rewrite the script. I love it. It's by Hulan, and I love it. It reminds us that every day we get a chance to start over and we get a chance to correct if we need to course correct. So there's no need to feel that we're doomed, that we're stuck, that we are not moving forward. Every day we get a chance to move forward. I can be found on LinkedIn, and so that is one of my primary platforms as my name, Nicole Parat, and also on Instagram, The Burnout MD. And my website is www.theburnoutmd.com.
Beautiful. I love that quote. That is just fantastic. Sarah, how about you?
Absolutely. I love that quote too. So I would say just that for other women who are raising kids and a doctor and just trying to juggle all the things, that I think it's okay and actually really important to step into the idea of prioritizing yourself and your needs and your desires without apologizing for them. Because not just is it going to allow you to feel more like you're in alignment, as you move through your day, you're still going to have all these things that you are juggling. But I think if you're really, really clear on how you are moving through your days, because you're spending your time and your energy on the very most important things to you, you're going to feel a lot less trained over the course of your day, and then definitely over the course of your career. So I just think like taking time to get clear on what those things are for you is going to be such a huge payoff, and a lot of, just sense of more freedom and flexibility, even if your schedule stays, plenty busy and full. I always like to say it's like a full life, not necessarily a busy life, but like full of the things that, bring you personally the most joy and fulfillment, and meaning. Yeah, and get a coach if you need help, because it can be uncomfortable to go through emotionally, right? And like some of those limiting beliefs come up, or just feeling like you can't make progress, it's too scary, it's too hard, you don't want to disappoint others, all of those things. So definitely those can be worked through. And as far as people can find me, I would say I'm probably the most active on LinkedIn as well. Just my name, Sarah Witchery. I try to be on there. I'm sort of not consistent, but I'm trying. And then, and I have a podcast I do. It's called Vibrant Humans. So that's a way to hear more about topics related to a lot of times like mothering, managing a career, and just kind of creating the life that you desire to live. So that's probably one of the best ways to find me and hear me talk about these topics more.
This was fantastic. You can always tell when I'm just glued to what is being said. I'm like scooting up in my chair and trying to get closer, even though I've got headphones on my head. So that's completely ridiculous, right? Like, and I can adjust just the volume right here. Oh, anyways, as always, I let everybody know that Ripple of Change can be found at ourquadrupleaim.com. And by the time this comes out, I think the website will have been refreshed, and that's been amazing. I've got a really cool group helping me out, and they've just been fantastic. So as always, we will end with the rhetorical question: what positive ripple of change will you create today?
Grab your copy today. Ripple of Change is available in hard, soft, and ebook formats. More information at www.ourquadrupleaim.com. Thanks for listening, and let's turn ripples into waves of lasting change. Stay tuned to this podcast as we search for examples of our quadruple aim.